Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. Today I'm going to provide a little bit of explanation to our liberal friends. Those of you who are watching this video today, welcome. Just for the record, I welcome all points of view. I've gotten some comments that were very critical of conservatives. That's fine. The comment section is for everybody. I try to stay out of the comment section. I believe that's the space for everybody. I've got this vlog to say what I want to say. So what I want to say today is I'm getting a little irritated about this call from our liberal friends to just suck it up, get along, and well, like Rodney King, why can't we all just get along? I'm going to tell you why we can't just all get along. The reason we can't get along, well, there are many reasons. So let's just try to go through a few of them without making this vlog too long, because I probably could be here all day talking about all the problems I have. Number one, though, is any liberal who, or never Trumper, but we'll stick with liberals for today, or Democrats who did not accept the election of Donald Trump, they have no right to talk as far as I'm concerned. You can't say that Trump is an illegitimate president and then turn around and expect us to accept Joe Biden. But the main comment from our liberal friends that really bothers me is this, well, you're just mad because you lost. It's just because Trump didn't win. That's why you're so mad, and you just have to accept that Trump lost. Well, I have news for our liberal friends. This is not the first election that Republicans have lost. You don't have to go too far back to have two elections, Barack Obama, his first election, and then his re-election. I have news for you in case you didn't know. Obama's a Democrat. Republicans, well, I'm not a Republican, I'm a conservative, and I guess I should mention, as I occasionally do, full disclosure, I'm a conservative, so keep in mind whatever I say in that light. Now, getting back to the subject, we Republicans have lost before. This is not the first time we have lost an election. What is different this time? Well, let's go back to the Barack Obama election and re-election. And one difference I can point out to you is that in those elections, Republicans were allowed to observe the count. All these state laws require, in all these 50 states, require that a Democrat and a Republican be there for the counting of the ballots. That happened during the election and re-election of Barack Obama both times, and any election of a Democrat going all the way back to as long as there's been Democrats. But this time, you have multiple witnesses and you have videotape. You have cell phone videos of Republicans being prohibited from watching the count. In many cases, not even being allowed to enter the area where the ballots were being counted. In Detroit, you saw that video, I'm sure, of the poll workers putting cardboard over the windows so that Republicans could not see, and Republicans that were inside being escorted out by police to the applause of the poll workers. So, my liberal friends, if we're supposed to just suck that up, then you explain to me, you give me the innocent explanation of why Republican observers were not allowed to observe. My obvious conclusion is because Democrats in these, and this only happened in a few very specific areas, very heavily Democratic areas with, by the way, at least in the cases of Milwaukee, Detroit, and Philadelphia, reputations for fraud. I mean, people have gone to jail. So again, my Democratic friends, you tell me why these Democrats did not want a single Republican to see what they were doing. So again, you have to tell me, what is the innocent explanation? And until I get one, then no, I'm not going to cooperate. I'm going to do exactly what, well, not exactly what you Democrats did. I was going to say a resistance, but no, a loyal opposition to oppose everything that Biden wants to do, except for obvious things. If he wants to cut taxes, he'll have my support, but I'm going to fight him tooth and nail on everything else. Instead, I'm going to start contributing again. I had taken a break. I had been contributing every month. Now I'm going to start doing it again, $25 a month, to the National Republican Congressional Committee to help them take over the House. Okay, that's what I'm going to do, and that's all I'm thinking about, except, well, I already contributed money for the Loeffler and Perdue campaigns in Georgia, and I'm going to want, if you Democrats want us to get along, then I'm sure you are going to agree with me that there must be a Republican observing the counting of every single ballot that comes in from that runoff election. If Republicans are excluded again, then don't tell me that was a fair election, unless you have, again, an innocent explanation of why Republicans can't watch the counting of the votes. As I said in an earlier vlog, if you really want to satisfy me, I think the requirement should be reversed, not where, as it is today, a Republican and a Democrat watch the counting and challenge ballots that they think look fishy. I would do it the other way around. I would require the Democrat and the Republican to initial each ballot, to hold in their hands each ballot and then initial the ballot to provide a record that they saw the ballot and that they approved the ballot. If that happens in this Georgia election, then I will be satisfied. But if Republicans are not allowed to view the counting of the ballots, if they are even just allowed into the facility but kept in a roped off area where they can't see the counting, if there is not an observer for each election worker, then I'm sorry, I'm not going to accept the result. Getting back to the presidential election, as I said in an earlier vlog, I have a home office. I work from home, so I was able to keep in the background these hearings, these several hearings in these several states where I personally heard and saw, when I was able to take my eyes off my work for a moment just to watch the proceedings, I heard with my own ears hundreds of witnesses who submitted affidavits under oath, penalty of perjury, testifying to all kinds of chicanery that they personally observed. So if you want to satisfy me, getting back to these Republican observers who were not allowed to observe, well, then any ballot, these millions of ballots, or at least the ones in these swing states where you suddenly had these sudden spikes of votes for Biden, and I'll get to that in a moment, but every one of those ballots, recount the ballots with a Republican and a Democratic observer. Recount all those ballots. Let them look at the ballots. Let them handle the ballots. There was one witness who testified that there were pristine ballots that hadn't been folded, which is not possible. And I'm not talking about a military ballot where you have to transfer the votes from the military ballot to one that can be read by these machines. I'm talking about absentee ballots, civilian absentee ballots that came in, had no folds, were absolutely pristine, meaning that they had not been folded and put into an envelope. I heard witnesses testifying to that. So let's go over those ballots and see if any, if there are any without a fold, number one. Number two, there were witnesses who said that there were ballots that had identical markings on them, so identical that it was obvious to these witnesses that the ballots had been Xeroxed, that one ballot had been filled out and other ones had been just Xeroxed, because the little ovals that were filled in with pen would be absolutely identical. If there was a little white space in the upper right-hand corner of an oval, that identical white space would be on another 15 ballots. Then you had the spikes. You had Trump ahead by hundreds of thousands of votes, and then in one state about 6:30 in the morning, and in another state, I don't remember what the first state was, the second state was Michigan, you had votes, and then you had 1:30 in the morning in Georgia. You had in several of these states, you had the voting going along and one candidate or the other leading, and usually Trump leading by sometimes hundreds of thousands of votes, and then you suddenly had a spike. You had a sudden infusion of, in one case, hundreds of thousands of votes, almost all of them for Joe Biden. It's just nonsense statistically that could happen, that suddenly Biden would be getting 90+% of the votes. So we'll just say, for the sake of the argument, that that's possible, that is exactly what happened. Fine, then let's look at the ballots. My Democratic friends, it shouldn't bother you then. If you think the election was legitimate, then you should, and the auditing of the Dominion machines, if you are sure the election was fair and that there was no chicanery, no fraud, then you should be the first ones calling for an audit of everything. All right? And if the audit shows that Biden really did suddenly get hundreds of thousands of votes at 6:30 in the morning, almost all for him and none for Trump, then so be it. Show me the proof. If I have the proof, then I will accept the results of the election. Until that happens, then I am going to do what the Democrats did to Trump, except that they made up a false story, a hoax of Russian collusion. I am going to do what I can to make sure people know about the real news that was suppressed about the Biden family, about Hunter Biden. That's one thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to resist in any way I can, except that I will only do legal resistance, unlike the Democrats, many who just formed resistance to stop Trump from governing in any way, manner, shape, and form that they could. I'm talking about workers in the federal government who are almost all Democrats, majority Democrats by a very large amount, just getting legitimate orders from the president and then slow walking them and not carrying them out. And you still have that today, where the FBI is slow walking, providing documents, just throwing monkey wrenches into the process. So I would oppose that, but by any legal means possible, any constitutional means possible, I'm going to resist. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, my Democratic friends. I'm going to resist until we have these audits, until every verification that Republicans want is done, okay? If they are all done and then it turns out that Biden really won, then I will accept that he is the president and we just lost. But at the moment, I don't believe that. After hearing hundreds of witnesses, I just don't believe it. Oh, and that is the other thing my Democratic friends have to do. You have to show that hundreds and hundreds, about 800, I believe, altogether, that they are all lying, okay? And to know that they are all lying, you have to check out every one of these stories and not just dismiss it, not say that the Hunter Biden story is Russian disinformation. I want you to report everything. I want you to report everything honestly, and especially the Hunter Biden story, if that, as it looks, turns out to be true and turns out to be a problem for the Bidens. I want my Democratic friends to admit that you did suppress that story, that it was true. It was true, and you deliberately suppressed the story. And most of all, if it turns out that Joe Biden is the big guy who got 10% of the money from these shady deals with companies in China connected to the Chinese Communist Party, then you have to join me and support impeaching Joe Biden, because Donald Trump was impeached for nothing. Because, well, we know now that because Hunter Biden himself said that he is being subject to a criminal investigation, not just not paying your taxes, but a criminal investigation, that there actually was corruption in the Ukraine government and that Hunter Biden was involved. However you want to characterize the Trump phone call with the president of the Ukraine, that was perfectly legitimate. Trump was doing his job, so I would want an admission of that. I would want an admission that you resisted his presidency, that you were planning to impeach him from the very start. And if you don't want to admit that, and if you don't want to apologize for that, then I want Biden impeached. I want him impeached. That's my plan now from the very start, because unlike the Russian hoax, this is fact. This is true. If Biden is shown to be, I don't want him to be impeached for some nebulous abuse of power the way Trump was, which has no bearing on the Constitution. There was no justification for that, as I said, for that impeachment at all. I would not do the same thing for Biden. But if there's even the smallest connection with, if Biden is the big guy, then I want him impeached, okay? But I'll give you some good news. I don't want him removed from office, because that would make Kamala Harris president. That is Biden's insurance policy. If it were somebody else, then if it were Joe Manchin were the vice president, definitely I would want Biden removed from office. So he's safe in that respect, but I would want him totally disgraced. I would want the public to know what a sleazeball he is, and Biden is. He's a sleazeball. He's corrupt. He is, well, I don't want to go on anymore. His actions, and he has dementia, and he's physically frail. He has no business being president of the United States. And unless, as I said, there is some very significant change in the attitude of Democrats towards Donald Trump, for one thing, and giving credence to all these problems with the fraud. Until something like that happens, unless there's some major change, then I'm sorry, I am not going to go happily, I'm not going to go quietly into that good night or bad night of election fraud. I'm sorry, not going to do it. And that's it, I guess. That's my answer to all my Democratic friends. So if you want to be mad at me, you can, but that's the way it's going to be for the next 4 years. I am just going to ignore Joe Biden, and I'm just going to wait to take over Congress and keep the Senate and re-elect Donald Trump in 2024. If he chooses to run, that is my total focus between now and then. And if he doesn't run again, then to elect whoever the Republican candidate is. That's it. That's it for today. Thanks for listening to me, if you did listen to me for this amount of time. And if you could give a little bit more time, because I appreciate the time that you spent with me, which I think was quite a bit today. But I would appreciate a thumbs up if you like this video. Share with anybody you think would also like it. Got any comments? Comment section below the video, where you can also put suggestions for future topics, ask questions. You could subscribe. I love getting subscribers. You could listen to my other channel, my music channel. I have a link in the description where you can hear some of my just wonderful original music, and no politics, completely politics free. And what else is left except to say that I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.